Okay, you know I love me some PFL, and we are back this Friday for the PFL's final card, at least stateside, this year in 2023. It is main evented, of course, by the lightweight championship. Clay Collard looks to take the championship away from Aubin-Mercier, who was the champion last year for the PFL. Co-main event, heavyweight title. Of course, all the titles are on the line for the PFL. Obviously, their end-of-season event has all the championships on the line. So the heavyweight title, Ferreira taking on Goltsov. The women's featherweight championship, Larissa Pacheco taking on Mokhnatkina. In the welterweight division, you've got the reigning champion, Sada Busi, taking on the former champion in Magomedkerimov. In the light heavyweight division, Kasanganay versus Silveira. And of course, then at the featherweight division for the males weight classes, of course, you have got the rematch between Jesus Pinedo and Gabriel Braga. So we have got, in total, I believe, 12 fights on this entire card. Yes, 6 of them, though, of course, or sorry, 5, yeah, 6 of them being title fights. 5 of them are on the main card. They relegated Braga and Pinedo to the undercard, even though Pinedo is coming off back-to-back finishes in main events. But it's fine. That one will be in the prelims. Let's get into it, folks. If you haven't yet, though, make sure that subscribe button down below for some more PFL here on the channel. We do all sorts of MMA on the channel, UFC, PFL, Bellator. We'll see if Bellator continues, but let's get on to it. Starting off with the first fight of this 12. We've got some just enhancement fights. Our first one being between Jesse Stirn and Josh Blyden. We're going to go with Josh Blyden here to pick up the victory. I'm going to take him to win by, we're going to go with Jesse Stirn by unanimous decision. For Stirn, 15-6 coming into this fight. He's 0-2 so far in Bellator, which isn't great, but has won 4 in a row since he comes into PFL. Did I say Bellator? In the PFL, he lost to Shane Morais and then Anthony Dizzy in his second one, but he's taken on Josh Blyden, who is 9-2, and Blyden is very, there's so many, just empty gaps in the game of Blyden, or at least what we know out of Blyden, because this is a guy coming off a split decision victory over 2 years ago in NFC, wins it by split decision, back-to-back wins by submission before that, then a split decision loss in NFC. NFC is a promotion it ran, I believe it's in the South, right? You got cards in Georgia. Yes, I believe it's a Southern promotion. I think he fought in some main events over in NFC. He was the former NFC featherweight champion. He was it's supposed to be in the Challenger Series in 2022. He had to withdraw. They instead put him on this spot instead. I think Stirn wins. I'm going to take him to win by decision. He's gone and shown that he can win fights in unified MMA and CFFC. I think he's the all-around better fighter. He's fought guys like Morais before. Again, he didn't win the fights, but still, I think Stirn is able to go in there. I think he's able to work his ground game and win by decision. I know Blyden isn't horrible on the ground either. He's got 5 submission wins, and Stirn does have a couple submission losses. However, I still think Stern's the all-around better fighter. Give me Jesse Stirn to win by unanimous decision. On to our next one. We have got a fight here between Phil and Kai Wu. For Phil, Caracappa, he's 9-3 professionally, coming off of his last fight where he actually lost at Unified Fight League. Before that, winning over in Ring of Combat against James Gonzalez. He's taking on a fighter here in Kai Wu, who is 7-4 professionally, training out of Tracy, California. He's 1-2 in his last 3 fights, coming off a win in Enter the Dragon promotion where he wins it by split decision, a loss on Uriah Faber's A1 Combat, and then a loss before that on Colorado Combat. He's 0-2 in Bellator when he fought over there. 1 loss to Caspel coming in 2018, then a loss coming to Isaiah Gonzalez in 2018 as well. Yeah, not much to say, honestly, about Kai Wu. This is a fight where Phil is supposed to go out here and absolutely destroy him. He's a guy who's fought in the Contender Series before he lost to Ricky Steele over there in 2019. He's the former Ring of Combat regional champion twice. Won it back in 2019, then won it again in 2022. Or I think they never stripped him the belt after not fighting Ring of Combat for 3 years. Apparently they didn't. I don't know. But I'm not that familiar with Ring of Combat. I know, of course, based up in New York, guys like Murad Duvalishvili, Ralphie Stotts, Chris Weidman, Uriah Hall fought over there. I believe Aljamain still needed a 1.2, but again, I know Caracappa is coming off a loss in his last one in Unified Fight League, taking on a guy who was 10-3 at the time, now 11-4, fought an ACA before the guy they fought. I feel pretty confident in taking Caracappa to win this one. I'm going to take him to win by unanimous decision, and immediately we now get into a big-time fight. It is Bubba Jenkins and Chris Wade. They will be fighting yet again. Bubba Jenkins won earlier this year, but it is the 3rd time these two have fought. It is the trilogy bout. The first one comes in 2021. The fight is won by Chris Wade. Wade goes out there and picks up the victory by unanimous decision. Then earlier this year, the first fight, or their first fight of this season. It was won by Bubba Jenkins. Obviously, both of them ended up making the playoffs. Chris Wade ends up losing to Gabriel Braga, and then Bubba Jenkins loses to Jesus Pinedo, who missed weight, but we're gonna, not look at that apparently. I don't know. Chris Wade, though, comes into this fight record of 23 wins and 10 losses. He has been around. He's been around the PFL for a while. He has had many fights with the promotion. This will be fight number 19, I do believe, in the PFL for Chris Wade. Fought in the UFC as well. Went 5-2 over there. Got cut from the promotion. Really didn't get the a fair shake of things over there in the UFC. Because he gets cut, I believe, after a win, because he lost before that back-to-back fights to Islam Makhachev being one. He didn't get a fair shake over in the UFC. Wade has not won the PFL championship. He has been in a PFL championship fight, he was the number 1 seed last year, loses to the eventual champion in Jenkins. And Brendan Loughnane. Jenkins ends up losing to Loughnane in the championship. But again, they're 1-1 now. My thing is, what really changes from their first fight earlier this year? I know, again, Bubba Jenkins this season went 2-1. He beats Wade, he beats Sung Bin Jo, and then he loses to Pinedo. Wade goes 2-1. He goes 1-2, loses to Jenkins, but gets the 6 points with Yoji Kudo, and then drops the fight to Gabriel Braga after that by split decision. Given Jenkins just lost by knockout, that wasn't very long ago. That was around 3 months ago. So again, don't love that. But Chris Wade is not the guy who's going to knock you out with one punch. If Wade's going to beat you, he's likely going to beat you by submission. Only 2 wins in the PFL have been by finish. They've both been by head kick. The Kyle Bochniak win in 2022, and the win back in 2021 in his second fight of that season that got him, I believe, the 1 seed where he beat Jenkins in the playoffs, and he lost to Khabibulov in the championship fight. So again, there's the threat of the knockout from Wade. I think Jenkins, though, is still a better wrestler. We've seen that earlier this year. Again, we just saw this fight in 2023. It's not like we're basing this pick off their fight in 2021. They didn't fight in 2022. They didn't fight in 2022. They're both in the playoffs. They could have fought. If, of course, Wade beat Loughnane, they would have fought for the championship. But again, we just saw this fight earlier this year. I don't think much changes. Again, Wade's a guy who's gone 1-2 this season. At least Jenkins is 2-1. I am going to go with Bubba Badman Jenkins to go out here and pick up the victory. Again, the knockout 3 months ago does concern me a little bit, but I think Jenkins goes out and wins. Give me Bubba Jenkins by unanimous decision. On to our next one. It's the Baggio Ali Walsh squash match. That's a wrestling term, but it's just he's fighting a can here. He's fighting Joel Lopez is his opponent in this one. It's not a tough fight at all. He's taking on a guy who is 3-0 on the amateur ranks, but again, you can expect Baggio Ali Walsh to beat every single guy the PFL throws at him. They are not trying to have him lose. They are setting him up eventually to be a professional fighter in the PFL ranks. Again, when will that be? I don't know. I think the next step next season at least will be for him to fight professional fights. That's simple, right? Have him fight cans who are professional fighters, and then eventually you work him up if he can keep winning. You take the Aaron Pico route that Bellator did with Baggio Ali Walsh, essentially, in the PFL. I mean, Bellator's done this successfully with many guys, not in the amateur ranks, but they did this with AJ McKee, and look at the success McKee's had with Bellator. Aaron Pico, sure, hasn't been the guy that exactly they wanted him to be, but still very successful, I would say, in Aaron Pico and Bellator. So that's what they're trying to do with Baggio Ali Walsh. He's not going to lose this fight. He's had, 4 fights in PFL so far. He's won all of them by knockout. Only one of them made it past the first round. And oh, by the way, he won that fight by second round knockout. This fight, there's not much to talk about. Baggio Ali Walsh is going to win the fight by first round knockout. I don't even know if you can bet on amateur fights, but I mean, that's what it is. Anyways, on our next one, it is the first championship fight of 6. Yes, here we go. It is on the undercard, it is on the prelims, but 5 rounds for the featherweight championship. It is the rematch. We've already seen it earlier this year. Jesus Pinedo and Gabriel Braga. Braga is still undefeated as a professional mixed martial artist. Takes on Pinedo, a guy who is coming off the biggest 2 wins of his career, back-to-back in huge spots, in main event spots for the PFL organization. Let's talk about Pinedo first. Again, he drops the first fight, an ever so close split decision win, slightly going to Gabriel Braga. After that, Pinedo is booked against Brendan Loughnane. It's a fight where really Loughnane's supposed to win the main event spot, supposed to get Loughnane in the playoffs. And what does Pinedo do? He sets him down with a knee in the first round and puts him down and puts him out. Then he gets booked for the playoff fight. Again, he misses weight in this fight, but still, they let the fight go on. He beats Bubba Jenkins. He finishes him in the second round. Jenkins couldn't get him down. And Pinedo was just so much bigger, and that's something that's going to be huge because, again, Pinedo is big for the weight class. He's 6 feet tall at featherweight. Again, that's pretty big for a featherweight. Braga 5'9". That's, again, something. We have not seen Jesus Pinedo, though, in a 5-round fight. That's going to be something because Pinedo, again, does kind of go for it early in fights. And again, for Braga, we have seen Braga already beat Pinedo this year, and that's might be where I'm going with this pick. But let's talk about what Gabriel Braga has been able to do this season. He beats Jesus Pinedo in the first fight by split decision. He beats Marlon Moraes by knockout in the first round. Again, that's a washed up Marlon Moraes who shouldn't be fighting anymore, who has retired now. And then Braga wins not the greatest fight against Chris Wade, given that it was supposed to be Khabibulov, but Khabibulov of course pulls out, which of course he does. So Braga beats Wade, and now we get Braga and Pinedo. If Pinedo doesn't knock him out early, I think Braga is going to win the fight. I think Braga is the all-around better fighter. I think Braga is definitely more skilled, and I think Braga is more skilled everywhere. He really mixes it up well in the feet. You likely don't see this one hit the mat. You haven't seen the submission game out of Pinedo much, at all, in the last couple years. Even when he had his short stint in the UFC where he went 1-1. Again, Braga hasn't lost. This guy's really good. He really mixes up his strikes really well between the body and the head. He's an all-around very good striker. Again, I think as long as Pinedo doesn't knock him out early, Braga is going to win the fight, because that's where Pinedo's got his best shot. Obviously, that's where he beat Lopez. That's where he beat Bubba Jenkins. If Braga is able to get out of that, he's going to win the fight. Again, I think Braga is going to really bring him into deep waters, and he's going to be there at the end of the fight. I don't know if Pinedo is really going to be there at the end of the fight. Again, Braga's a guy who's 4-0 this year. This year in the PFL, he's 4-0 after he won the Challenger Series in March. The guy has won 4 fights since March, and he's looking for his 5th, and he's looking to become $1 million richer and become a world champion. I think he gets that. I think Braga remains undefeated, and Gabriel Alves Braga becomes the world champion for the PFL. I think he mixes it up really well. He outstrikes Jesus Pinedo. Give me Gabriel Braga to win the fight by unanimous decision. On to our next one. Is not a championship fight, but it is the PFL debut of one Derek Brunson. Brunson is making his way now to the PFL, and he takes on one Ray Cooper III. Ray Cooper III was not a participant in the 2023 PFL season. He fell short of making the playoffs in 2022 after missing weight in his first fight and losing to Carlos Leal. He then beats Brett Cooper by first round knockout in 24 seconds. It was a gimme matchup, but still does not have enough points to earn a playoff spot. For his opponent in Derek Brunson was originally supposed to be booked just a couple weeks ago on that card that ended up getting main evented by Yuri Prohashka and Alex Pereira. That was supposed to be Derek Brunson and Roman Dolidze on that main card as well. Of course, Brunson pulls out. Dolidze was reshuffled and rebooked to Jared Cannonier. Cannonier tears his MCL. I believe Dolidze is looking at a fight with Nasruddin Imavov. I think that's probably where they're going to go next. I'm not sure, but they're going to do with Dolidze. But anyways, Brunson is coming off back-to-back losses. Now, after his win over Darren Till, you were looking at Brunson's a fight away from getting that first shot at the World Championship. I know, and there's a big thing. Yes, he lost Israel Adesanya in 2018, but you can't deny the guy a title shot after back-to-back wins, or 3 straight wins over Shabazian, who beat an undefeated Shabazian, Kevin Holland before people really knew how to beat Kevin Holland, and Holland's decent, but again, that was Holland at his highest hype, and then Darren Till before everyone realized Darren Till is not really that guy anymore. Gets those 3 wins, get the fight against Jared Cannonier, he loses. Cannonier beats him. Brunson wins the first round. Brunson knocks down Jared Cannonier in the first round, but eventually Brunson just runs out of gas in the second round, and he gets TKO'd on the ground, or KO'd on the ground with elbows. Same with the Dricus du Plessis fight. Du Plessis fights a decent fight, but again, Brunson tires and loses the fight. Now, I know Jared Cannonier is coming off his best performance of his career where he beat Marvin Vettori, and Dricus du Plessis is fighting for the world championship in a fight that he might be favored in to become the new world champion against Sean Strickland. That's great, but still, as good as those losses may look, because again, they are to Cannonier and du Plessis, and his only 3 losses since 2018 are Cannonier, du Plessis, and Adesanya. Still, though, it's like he didn't look great in those fights. And I would say more of those fights were Cannonier and du Plessis, excelling at what they're good at, but not much of, Brunson's just not great at this point. I don't think he is. Now, as you see on the screen, I'm still picking Derek Brunson. I know I'm, kind of crapping on him here. He's 39 years old, and that's why I'm saying all this. And he's fighting at 85. I believe this fight will be at. I think he's gonna be. This fight's gonna be at 85, right? Yeah, it's at 85, but he's gonna be fighting at 205 next year for the PFL, which is interesting. But Ray Cooper III is gonna be his opponent here, and Ray Cooper III is gonna look to knock his head off. Now, how this fight is gonna end up is gonna be really dependent on what Ray Cooper is able to do in terms of defending the takedowns from Derek Brunson, because you know Derek Brunson is going to shoot him. He is going to shoot the takedowns against Ray Cooper III. It's what Cooper III can do against those takedowns, and what Ray Cooper is able to do once he's on the feet too. Is he able to really punish Derek Brunson for remaining on the feet with him? Because don't forget, Brunson's not a horrible striker. He's not great at it. Don't get me wrong, but you got to make him tired, and you got to get him late into the fight, because that's how Duplessis and Cannonier both beat him. Honestly, I think Brunson's able to out-scramble Ray Cooper III. I think he's able to win the first 2 rounds, and I think Cooper III will win the third, but Ray Cooper is really not known for his longevity in fights either. I know, again, the win over Magomedkerimov was in the 3rd round, but still, Ray Cooper III really has been more of a early finish guy. I think if Brunson's able to win those first 2 rounds, I don't think Ray Cooper III is going to have enough to finish him in the 3rd round. And I think Derek Brunson ever so slightly is going to be able to edge out a decision victory. I'm going to go with Derek Brunson to actually win the fight. I think Brunson's able to get enough done. I know UFC guys or former UFC guys don't do well in the PFL, so I'm probably shooting myself in the foot with this pick, but I'm still going to take Derek Brunson. You can probably get him at plus money. I'll take Brunson by unanimous decision. Okay, on our next one. It's a fight at 145 pounds, I do believe, where they have catchment is 150 pounds. Kayla Harrison is back. She's going to be taking on Aspen Ladd. Yes, Harrison is back now for the PFL. Obviously, she did not fight this season. Larissa Pacheco beat her last year in the championship fight, and beat her by unanimous decision. She won 3 out of 3 out of 5 did Pacheco, and Pacheco, of course, became the world champion, and she's likely on her way. We'll talk about her later, but she's likely on the way to regaining and retaining the world championship as well. Kayla Harrison, I mean, it's a tougher fight than she was originally booked against. I mean, the Julia Budd fight I didn't think was all that competitive. I know Budd's still got a little bit left in the tank, but this is the fight we want. It's Aspen Ladd and Kayla Harrison. I know Ladd went 1-1 in 2023 with the PFL, and was it disappointing? Yes, but she is a win over Julia Budd as well. That fight happened last year. The championship card for the PFL. So she is 2-1 with the promotion. Her losses in the UFC honestly have not aged horribly either. Jermaine Durandamy, okay, former world champion. Norma Dumont's at the top of the featherweight division, and Raquel Pennington's fighting for a world title in January in Toronto. I believe that card's going to be in against Mauro Bueno Silva. So the one loss in the PFL is Elena Kolesnik, and that's not great, obviously. Kolesnik beats her by majority decision. It's not a great fight. But, Ladd goes back. She beats Karolina Sobek in her last fight, and she wins it by armbar in the 2nd round. None of that matters when you just look at this fight and look at what Kayla Harrison's going to be able to do in this one. Harrison's not fought in a year. I'm not going to pick against her because of that loss against Pacheco. I think Pacheco's really that good. And I think this is going to be all Kayla Harrison in this fight. I think Aspen Ladd will actually get it out the 1st round. I think Ladd's going to be decent enough defensively off her back in that 1st round. But I think Harrison's going to be able to get her down immediately. And then in that 2nd, that's where Harrison's going to really mop things up. Going to take Kayla Harrison to win by 2nd round submission. Again, I just don't see how Aspen Ladd makes it that far in this fight. Kayla Harrison is that much better than Aspen Ladd. She's able to out-scramble her. She's more physically dominant on the ground than what Aspen Ladd is. So give me Kayla Harrison all day long. I'm going to take Harrison to win this one by 2nd round submission. On our next one, it is for the light heavyweight championship. Here we go. Impa Kasanganay takes on Josh Silveira. What a fight. Impa Kasanganay has come into the PFL after fighting in the UFC, didn't produce the best results, but really shouldn't have felt like, didn't feel like he should have been cut after a 2-2 outing or 2-2 start to his career. Losses to Buckley and Carlson Harris, and wins from Maki Pitolo and Sasha Planetlikov. He gets dropped by the UFC, goes to Eagle FC, loses to Raymond Magomedkerimov by split decision. Really close fight. Guy ended up on the Contender Series. He lost in Magomedkerimov. Beats Jared Gooden after that in XMMA, then goes to the PFL. Challenger Series. Like Braga, he's trying to become 5-0 this season. He was a replacement into the PFL. He beats Osama El Saidi by KO in the 1st round. He beats Corey Hendricks by unanimous decision. He submits Tim Karen in the 2nd round with an arm triangle choke, goes into the playoffs as the 3 seed, knocks out Martin Hamlet in the 1st round, and now here he is against Josh Silveira. Kasanganay is so much better at 205 pounds. I still think he's small for the weight class. Don't get me wrong. He is a big guy, and he is completely filled out at 205. I still think his natural weight's 185. He would be one of the few guys who would really benefit from a super middleweight, which would be 195 pounds. That's never going to happen. That's really not a weight class. Eagle FC tried to implement a 165. Obviously, that did not stick. 65 and 95 are never coming in, and a 220 or 235 hybrid is never coming in for the heavyweights either. I'm fine with that. I'm cool with the weight classes, but I'm saying Kasanganay would really benefit from a 195 because that would be really where he could, maximize himself. 205 pounds, I still think he is a little bit small. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I think he's a little bit small for 205 pounds, but he's still really strong. He's got a lot of power at 205 as well. Josh Silveira is going to be his opponent in this one. Silveira will be the bigger fighter, I think, ever so slightly. I mean, in terms of, like, height, he's going to be bigger, but really, Kasanganay should be able to hold his own pretty easily, at least in size in this one. And Silveira has not fought the best guys so far in 2023. I mean, he comes in, he beats Sam K. He's not good. He beats Sam K. He beats Dylan Monte. Monte's got the knee injury. Okay, no fault of Silveira's. And Silveira then goes and beats Ty Flores by knockout in the first round of the playoffs. It's not the best one. It's really not. Kasanganay does have the more impressive resume, I would say, ever so slightly, because the Hamlet win and then, winning 4 times already this year is pretty impressive. We'll see what Silveira is able to do. I think Kasanganay beats him all day on the feet. I think Kasanganay is the way better striker. I think Kasanganay's got more power in his shots, and he's way more elusive, and his striking is way more free, flowing. That doesn't really make sense, but it flows better than what Silveira's does. I really think so. I think Silveira again does look for the kill a lot. He does have power on the feet, but I think as a whole, technically sound wise, Kasanganay is so much better. You see what Kasanganay was able to do prior to his 205 run, and again, his run at 85, and then when he went to the UFC and when he fought at 70 once as well against Carlston Harris, and then when he fought at 70 in Eagle FC as well, again, Kasanganay does throw more volume down there, and he's a very active volume guy. Once he's gotten into the PFL, he's been more of a power guy at light heavyweight, obviously, right? He's still kind of that same guy, though, who can throw a lot as well. That's what really just makes him dangerous at this weight class and makes him a really dangerous fight for Josh Silveira. So I think Kasanganay beats him on the feet. I think the volume and the power is all Kasanganay. It's just a matter of Kasanganay can keep the fight standing. Again, Silveira's one loss, Omar Yakhmedov, playoff fight last season. Obviously, Silveira is the guy now in the PFL. I don't think he's able to get takedowns. I think Kasanganay is going to be able to keep him standing. I think Kasanganay is going to be able to match Silveira in terms of strength. So I think Silveira is going to be able, isn't really going to be able to do much in this fight. I think on the feet, again, he's going to have a puncher's chance, obviously, and we have seen Kasanganay rocked and knocked out before, looking at the Harris fight and the Joaquin Buckley fight. I think both of those fights, obviously the Buckley fight was at 185 pounds. Okay, whatever. He just gets hit with maybe the greatest knockout in UFC history. And the Carlston Harris fight, I just don't think 170 was Kasanganay's weight. Hell, the guy's fighting 205 pounds now. That just wasn't his weight class, right? So I think, we're fine with Kasanganay's chin. I think it's better at 205 pounds. I think Kasanganay sits down his punches, and I don't think this fight lasts very long. Kasanganay goes in here and knocks out Josh Silveira in the first round by knockout, and new Impa Kasanganay, light heavyweight champion for the PFL. He wins this fight by first round knockout. Up next, the rematch between Magomedkerimov and Sadibou C for the welterweight championship. Now, it's a rematch from back in 2021. It was a playoff fight back in 2021. Of course, eventually Magomedkerimov would fight Ray Cooper III in the championship fight, and he would end up losing. But yes, it is a rematch of their original bout. Of course, Magomedkerimov, the former world champion back in 2018, is looking to regain the championship. I would say, honestly, he is the most successful PFL fighter of all time. 16 fights for Magomedkerimov. He is 15-1. He's taken on the reigning world champion Sadibou C, and what a career, resurgence that Sadibou C has had since that Magomedkerimov loss. That is his last loss since 2021. After that, he goes on 2022. He beats Nikolai Alexashin, he beats Rory McDonald, beats Carlos Leal, beats Delano Taylor for the World Championship, and in 2023, it's been something different for Sadibou C. It's been more power striking as he went in his first fight, beats Gerard Hussein Al-Sawali by knockout in the second round, spitting wheel kicks Shane Mitchell in his next fight in the third round, beats Carlos Leal in their rematch by split decision, and now here he is, back to Magomedkerimov. And can Sadibou C, the Swedish Denzel Washington, can he outstrike Magomedkerimov in their rematch? Because Magomedkerimov is still the same guy he's always been. He still strikes with power. He was able to go win his last fight and beat Solomon Renfro. However, his schedule in 2023 has not been that difficult. I would say Sadibou C has had the tougher schedule. Magomedkerimov beats Ben Egley. He beats David Zawada. He beats Solomon Renfro. Tough fights, but not that tough in all fairness. Sadibou C has had the tougher competition, and we have seen Magomedkerimov, he tired in that fight for the championship in 2021. That's how Ray Cooper III beat him and handed him his only loss so far in the PFL. Let's just be honest, though. It's going to be an uphill climb by far for Sadibou C here. Magomedkerimov is still a really elite striker. He does have the ground game to back himself up if he needs to as well. And oh, by the way, he has the power to put guys away. Again, his 2 regular season fights in 2023, both knockout finishes in the first round. However, I'm going to take Magomedkerimov to win by unanimous decision. I don't think it's good enough to get Stirn out of there. I think this is a real, and I mean real, competitive fight between Magomedkerimov and C. I think it is a 5-round decision. I think this is going to go ever so slightly in favor of Magomedkerimov. I think he wins 3 rounds to 2. Again, that's how close I think this fight is. I think it's going to be a real competitive one that I think Magomedkerimov will just barely get the better of him in. Again, Stirn striking with power. I know when he won the championship last year against Delano Taylor, it was not the most impressive fight. It was not the most entertaining fight, but he did enough to out-kickbox his opponent. I don't think he's going to do enough to out-kickbox Magomedkerimov because, again, the threat of the takedown is there as well. I think Magomedkerimov is going to threaten with that and, of course, threaten with the striking as well. I think it's just going to be a tough fight for Stirn to win. I like C a lot, but unfortunately, I'm going to take Magomedkerimov to get the championship back. Magomedkerimov wins. He'll get it by unanimous decision. On to our next one. Fight contested in the women's featherweight division, you have got the reigning champion, Larissa Pacheco, taking on Marina Mokhnatkina in her first championship fight. I think we kind of realized Mokhnatkina wasn't that bad, honestly, because let's just be honest, PFL has had some bad women's fighters in the past. I think we realized she wasn't that bad when she took Kayla Harrison 15 minutes. Their fight back in 2022, she took Harrison 15 minutes. She lost the fight by decision, but she remained competitive with Kayla Harrison to the point where she lost every single round, but still was not finished that early in the fight, right? She went the full distance. Comes back in 2022, her second fight, she beats Abby Montez by split decision. Goes, fights a fight in RCC over in Russia. She wins that fight by Americana in the 3rd round. Comes back in 2022, beats Yoko Higashi in her first fight by ground and pound in the 2nd round, picking up 5 points. Beats Evelyn Martins after that by unanimous decision, and then beats Amber Liebrock in her next fight in the playoffs by armbar in the 1st round. Again, level of competition was not great. Evelyn Martins was undefeated going into that fight, but still, it's not the greatest competition. However, PFL doesn't really have much of that. She's taken on Larissa Pacheco, who is 11-2 in the PFL, who has not lost a fight since 2019. Larissa Pacheco is pretty good, and Larissa Pacheco has gone straight through fighters and absolutely dismantled them. She has made fights not competitive so far in her PFL run since she lost to Harrison the 2nd time, right? She loses twice to Harrison in 2019. In 2021, she wins 2 fights, gets a spot in the playoffs. She misses weight as the number 1 seed when she was supposed to take on Taylor Gordano. Comes back in 2022. She wins 4 fights to become the world champion. She beats Harrison in the finals, and then she comes back in 2023, beats Julia Budd, beats Amber Liebrock, and then beat Olena Kolesnik in her next fight. The Budd fight did go 15 minutes, but both Liebrock and Kolesnik, both those fights combined, were under a minute. And now she's in the world championship fight against Mokhnatkina. Marina Mokhnatkina does not have the striking to compete with Larissa Pacheco. She just doesn't. Her grappling is not horrible. Mokhnatkina can hang on the ground, and that's why she was competitive with Kayla Harrison. But matchup-wise, such an easier matchup for Larissa Pacheco against Marina Mokhnatkina than what Kayla Harrison was against Marina Mokhnatkina. This is Larissa Pacheco all day long. The striking isn't comparable. Mokhnatkina is going to find herself lost in the feet, and she is going to wilt when she sees the power of Larissa Pacheco, because she has not fought anybody close to the level of power that Pacheco does have. That's what happens to a lot of these fighters at 145 pounds in this women's weight class. Once they fight Pacheco, they realize they don't have the power, they don't have the chin, and they don't have the power to match Pacheco, so they wilt and they lose. Olena Kolesnik has fought Larissa Pacheco 3 times. She's lost by 1st round knockout every single time. Larissa Pacheco is levels ahead of the division. She's going to win this fight by 1st round knockout. We can only hope that Bellator comes in, or the PFL buys Bellator, so that Bellator can, put fighters in this league next year. Chris Cyborg, all these fighters, they don't have many, but Cyborg, Leah McCourt, Kat Zingano, I know these fighters wouldn't be all that competitive, but at least Cyborg would give you another fight with Pacheco, and potentially Kayla Harrison as well in a 4th fight. Those are the fights we need, not this. Larissa Pacheco wins pretty easily. She'll get it done by 1st round knockout. On to the co-main event. Denis Goltsov and Renan Ferreira for the heavyweight championship for the PFL. Ferreira looks to win this world championship. It's his first title fight, taking on Goltsov, who's been in this spot before. Goltsov, he went out in 2019, lost to Ali Isaev, in the semifinals. So he's lost in the semifinals twice. First championship fight officially for Goltsov, and it's about time, because last year seemed like it was going to be his year. It just felt like that was the way it was going. Of course, Goltsov beats Cody Goodale, beats Maurice Green in his next fight. Doesn't get to fight, of course, in the championship or in the playoffs because of visa issues. That was a weird season. Capoloza didn't even make the playoffs that year because he lost to Matu Scheffel. So, it was just odd. The world champion ended up becoming one Ante Delia. Delia is not in the playoffs this year because he didn't fight his first fight. So it's a big scramble. Again, the fight that you wanted to see, honestly, was Goltsov and Delia. Delia didn't get enough points. He's not in the spot, so Goltsov gets Hernan Ferreira instead. Goltsov's a pretty sizable favorite. What he's been able to do this season is pretty impressive, let's be honest. I know the Cesar Ferreira win isn't the greatest just because it's Cesar Ferreira at 265 pounds. It's not all that impressive. But since then, again, Yorgan De Castro beat him in 18 seconds, beats Jordan Heiderman after that, submits him in the first round. Heiderman's undefeated prior to that bout, of course, professionally. He lost one fight in the Ultimate Fighter, but that's technically an amateur fight. So Goltsov's look good. He gets Ferreira now, who is a big heavyweight, don't get me wrong, but Goltsov's 6'5", Ferreira is 6'8", 6'9". For Ferreira, 2-0 in 2023, loses his first fight to Rizvan Kuniev. Fight got overturned to a no contest, then it beats Matus Sheffel after that by knockout in the first round, then beats Maurice Green by knockout in the first round as well. Ferreira's got power, he does. But can he match up strike for strike with Goltsov? I don't think so. I think Goltsov's able to close the distance, and if you pressure Ferreira and get in his face, that's how you beat him. Ante Delia did a good job in their fight back in 2022 in the playoffs. I think Goltsov's really able to close distance here. I think he's got way more power. We've seen Goltsov go in there, and if he needs to switch it up, because Ferreira is not the greatest in the ground. I know he pulled off a submission win over Fabricio Verdum. Or that was a knockout win. Sorry, he tapped to Verdum. I completely butchered that. But still, like, I don't think Ferreira's ground game is all that great. I know he won the fight on the ground against Verdum. That's kind of what I was going for here. But Goltsov, again, I think Goltsov can take it down if he needs to. You've seen the submission wins in the past. He's got 11 of them on his professional career. He's got 15 knockouts as well. All around, the way better fighter is Denis Goltsov in this fight. Ferreira does have the one-shot power, but I don't think he's able to knock Goltsov out. Goltsov, last time he was finished in PFL was 2019 by knockout. Ferreira was finished in 2022. I think Goltsov is the better striker and the better boxer. He's going to win the fight by first-round knockout to finally become the PFL heavyweight champion. On to the main event for the lightweight championship. Oliveira Aubin-Mercier takes on Clay Collard. Clay Collard's coming off maybe the PFL fight of the year that he beat Shane Burgos in to get into the spot. OAM has not really had a competitive fight so far. He fights Bruno Miranda in his last one. He wins. It just feels like OAM is levels ahead of the pack here. And it was, the UFC did him a disservice by, well, no, they didn't do him a disservice because he won the world championship here. But really, this is a guy who should still be in the UFC. He is 34 years old, but you could really see him making, he wins this fight, really 2 or 3 more runs at being the world champion here in the PFL. Seriously, OAM is getting up there to be potentially the greatest PFL fighter of all time. Currently, again, PFL-wise, I'm not talking World Series of Fighting, if that would be Justin Gaethje if we included that, but PFL-wise, the greatest fighter right now, I think, is Magomedkerimov. OAM is getting there. They both have 1 world championship within the PFL. I think they're both going to get 2 on Saturday night, but OAM hasn't lost. He's 9-0. You see what he's been able to do this year. Burgos, Anthony Romero, Bruno Miranda. Given Romero and Miranda the toughest tasks? No, but he's able to go in there and beat them with ease. The Burgos fight was not all that entertaining, but he ended up winning. He beat him by decision. Obviously, the Clay Collard and Burgos fight was way more entertaining, but OAM's just been able to beat guys everywhere, on the ground and on the feet. And I think this fight, again, OAM will likely try to take him down, take this one down. Collard does have decent takedown defense, but again, he's a primary boxer. OAM is going to see the most success on the ground in this fight. That's where he's going to be able to really take over in this one. He was able to get Miranda down. He's able to finish Miranda on the ground. Again, he finished Anthony Romero on the feet. Again, I would feel all right with if OAM just struck with Clay Collard for 25 minutes, because I don't think Collard's got the power to knock him out, at least with the chin that OAM has got, and I don't think OAM's going to be hit as much as, what Collard's going to give him. I think this is all OAM in this fight. I know it's kind of an anticlimactic way to end the video and end the PFL season this year, which I don't really understand why this is the main event. I know it doesn't really sell pay-per-view. Personally, I'd like this to be Kasanganay and Silveira. I think that's the most intriguing fight, or if not, Magomedkerimov and C2 is a really good fight as well. The last 3, Goltsov Ferreira is good, but star power-wise, they're not the biggest names. Pacheco, Mokhnatkina, you know what's going to happen. This fight is good. It's got the star power, but I think OAM just beats Collard everywhere, and I think he beats him to a pulp for 5 rounds. I don't think you're going to see the war that Collard had against Shane Burgos, because I think Aubin-Mercier is going to minimize that because how good he is. He's not going to engage in that war because OAM will be winning at every single moment of this fight. I think this is a easy OAM victory. Again, 10-0 in the PFL, the victory here. Oliveira Silveira, Aubin-Mercier goes to 10-0 in the PFL with a huge victory over Clay Collard. He goes in there and beats him by unanimous decision, beats him on the feet when he needs to, and he beats him on the ground as well. OAM becomes a two-time champion, retains his belt here in 2023. So folks, thank you all for watching our PFL title Friday championship card here, PFL 10. We'll be back for the PFL Europe Championships in December, and we'll be back for the PFL, of course, next year as well. Stay tuned to the channel for more UFC and Bellator as well. But folks, thank you all for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more, and Mamba forever.